Hey, are you tired of the left and right politics? I hope you'll subscribe to my YouTube channel. Just click that subscribe button, ring the little bell, and prepare to free your mind from the traditional red versus blue. So my guest is a concert promoter. This is the job I should have had. And we are talking Alice Cooper, Willie Nelson, Roger Waters, Aerosmith, the Grateful Dead, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Danny Zelisko has produced over 10,000 concert events throughout the course of the United States during the course of his career and lived to talk about it. Brand new book is called All Excess, not All Access. Get the play on words. All Excess, Occupation Concert Promoter. It's a fabulous book, and I love the stories. Hey, Danny, thank you for being here.
My pleasure. How are you guys today?
We haven't told the audience, why am I talking to a concert promoter, a legendary concert promoter, about Brian Piccolo?
Well, because he had a story that touched everybody, whether it was sports or music or just being human. You know, it's a story of a football player from Chicago who died when he was 26, and I was one of his best friends.
How does that? How can that
well,
happen?
You know, back in the 60s, when I would go to Wrigley Field, there was a little parking lot outdoors, no fences, across the street on a kitty corner kind of thing from the area where they would enter Wrigley Field to go in to play football. And so we had them for about 100 yards to ourselves. And we knew what time they were going to show up, and we knew when they would be there later, whether it was practice or a game. And we were fixtures there for years outside of Wrigley Field. And when they wanted to let us in, they would let us in for practices. George Hallis would let us in if they won the week before. And if they lost, we knew we would be outside. So, it was just one of those early things where we gravitated towards our sports stars and our heroes, and they were accessible to us, which, is pretty impossible in today's world. But it was great. We got to learn about how to be around famous people and adults and just be on the inside of something rather than on the outside looking in, the way most fans are with their heroes. And
you were a music fan. You're looking to get into the concert biz. You're a young guy. Somebody named Twigs gives you advice to show up. Well, you tell the story and do what?
Well, I didn't know how to do anything. I had no skills other than using my mouth to talk my way in or out of trouble. And at the Allman Brothers gig that I went to, which was the first one I went to in 1972 in Berkeley, when I left Chicago and I came to Berkeley, I was just drawn there like a magnet. I knew about San Francisco and the magic scene there, and Bill Graham and the Fillmore and all that. And I had to go there, and I already felt like I was late because I've been reading about, free love and, hippies and Haight-Ashbury since the mid 60s. And I was a 10-year-old. So I was onto this as part of a scene at a very, very early age. And I had to go there. So anyway, Twigs was the road manager for the Allman Brothers, who I ended up meeting at this show because my downstairs neighbor was an usher, and he let me in to the show, and I weaseled backstage, and I hung out with this Twigs guy. He's the only guy who would talk to me. And I explained that I wanted to do this, and one thing led to another. And he said, why don't you just come back here when there's a show, jump on the truck and start unloading some gear? So that's exactly what I did. The Yes people thought I was with Bill Graham's guys, and Bill Graham's guys thought I was with Yes guys, because when I talked to them, I tried to stay quiet, but I talked with an English accent. So I kind of duped them all day long until Bill got there for dinner that night, and I got busted, but he ended up liking me. And we ended up knowing each other for quite a long time after that, almost 20 years. The interesting thing about Twigs is about 6 years later, after that just one little meeting that I had with him, He came into town as the road manager for the Dixie Dregs, and he about turned white and dropped when he saw me there, because he goes, "You're that kid. Well, this is your show," and he was out of his mind. It was just beautiful, just whole 360.
It's 1973. It's 1973. Led Zeppelin is due to play in Phoenix. Jimmy Page, I don't quite understand this, is flying commercial and he is late. And what does it cause you to do?
Well, this was a show that Bill Graham was putting on. It was actually at Kezar Stadium where the 49ers used to play in San Francisco. And I was just there as a worker. I was a groan. I just grunted around. They had me filling the trash cans with the bags, liners, all around the stadium 1 minute. The next minute, I'm on the sound platform playing music through their speakers on stage, because the audience needs, to be pacified, because Jimmy was very late. I mean, it was hours late to this show because he chose not to fly on the band's charter. He went on his own with the people instead that day. And for whatever reason, it was important to him to do that day. And when he finally got there, I was kind of exhausted, having played DJ for about 2 hours with 12 tapes. Not easy. 8 tracks, of course.
8 tracks, right? If the song extended from one track to the other, you had to wait for it.
Yeah, not only that, like on the old 8 tracks with the longer songs, they would break right in the middle of a track.
Yep.
Everybody was on to me. It was like, it was crazy.
We're not giving it all away for free, but you got to tell this. Your favorite photograph in the book, and I can understand why, is with you and your father, the Dice Man, and his dad. And I loved the story about how you have booked Andrew Dice Clay and Bill Maher for the same gig. And there's a question of who's going to open for whom.
And I thought Dice was nuts. I had him booked for 40 grand at the Celebrity Theater here in Phoenix, where I'd had him many times prior. And I think this was the last time I had him there, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, he calls me up and he goes, "Look, I really like Bill Maher. Do you like him?" I said, "He's great." I go, "Why?" He goes, "I want to have him on our show at the Celebrity." I go, "I don't have any more money, Dice, unless, we raise the ticket prices really, really high." And he goes, "No, I don't want to touch the ticket prices." He goes, "Take mine. Let's split it. I already talked to him about it. He'll do it for the same fee as me. We'll co-headline." And I go, "Fine." Now, I assume Dice is going to be the closer because he's so strong in this market. He's done as many as 2 or 3 shows at a time for me there at the same hall. So when it's time to go on sale, I talk to him. I go, "So do you care what side you're on, up or bottom, with the billing and all that?" And he goes, "He's going to close." I told him, out of respect to him, he can close. And he goes, "And I'll do everything I can to blow him off the stage." And he goes, "Because I want people to get 2 different types of comedians, 2 different types of audiences. We should go over well with both." Well, as we know, Dice is a little more street humor-esque, and Bill Maher is a little more articulate and classy and a different approach. He says Bill's going to close, so that's fine. Dice comes in, does a 90-minute set that is the best set I ever saw him do. I mean, he was inspired to impress Bill Maher. He really was. And the audience wouldn't stop chanting, "Dice, Dice, Dice." And then when Maher went out on stage, he didn't want an introduction, which was a big mistake, because I usually introduce those guys. But those people were rowdy and drunk and unruly, and they wouldn't let him talk. And the microphone wasn't working as fate would have it. And Bill threw the microphone down, walked off the stage, and he goes right out the back door from the stage. There's this ramp. He goes right out to his car, and he's taking off. Somebody's driving him in a Lincoln. And I go, whoa, where are you going? He goes, "I can't compete with that. I can't do this." I said, I'll settle them down, okay? You come back, let's finish the show. And I went out and I told everybody who didn't want to watch Bill Maher could get up and leave right now. I'm going to give you a minute to collect your things and get out. But the next person that jeers, you know, the repercussions will be very severe. I don't know what that meant. And they stopped and Maher went on. He did a good set. You know, it wasn't great. He was so rattled. And it's odd, you know, to think about Bill Maher being rattled because he seems to be this picture of strength and, you know, standing up for everything. And he's really great at it. Yeah.
Can I tell you that when I read that story, and by the way, Danny Zelisko, the book is called All Excess. In my social media are the links to learn more about the book. But I just want to tell you, Danny, that when I read that, you took me back to being with 100,000 of my closest friends in 1977 for a bill that Larry Magid was promoting at JFK Stadium in Philadelphia, where the headliner was Peter Frampton. About 9 months sooner, he'd released Frampton Comes Alive. However, the so-called warm-up, Leonard Skinnard, fresh on the heels of One More from the Road. And when Ronnie Van Zant and the rest of the band played Freebird, the house almost burned down, and poor Peter Frampton had to then come out with a piano and sing I'm in You. I'll never forget it.
Beautiful
That's tough.
thing. That's a great moment right there. You know, you never want to follow Skinner.
No.
I saw the Who do that on their Quadrophenia tour, and I was worried about it. But of course, it was the Who, and you know they rose to the occasion. But Skinner, you know, they got really, really big out here in Arizona. This is one of the first hotbeds of places for them in the early '70s. And when I went back to Chicago for this Who concert, and Skinner was opening that tour, nobody knew who Skinner was in Chicago. And by the end of the set, you know, they knew who they were, and they could have come in the next night and headlined an arena themselves. They were unbelievable live.
So the first show that you get to present, as that photograph is depicted in the book, Two Midwest Peas in a Pod. I love Bob Seger. You are now putting on, I guess this was at the Arizona Veterans Memorial Coliseum. The year is 1980. And he says something to you pretty dramatic right before the show. What was it?
I ain't singing tonight. and I'm looking at him like, you're kidding. Why are you doing this to me? You know, it was 1980. So I've been doing this now for 7 or 8 years. And I'd worked my way up to the point where I can offer Bob Seger a show in the Coliseum. This would be my first Coliseum arena type show since I started promoting. And so show sold out in a day. And he apparently got into town, and you know, it's very dry here in Arizona. So you have to be careful to stay very hydrated when you're here and to stay out, you know, from the outside, stay away from it and get some sleep. So I think a lot of that wasn't happening right then. And his voice was just burnt out. He was a heavy smoker, and it's very dry here. So I was really upset, of course, because here was my 1 minute. This is my Super Bowl grand moment. The next minute, you know, I'm a schmuck. So he asked me why I was so upset. It's 5 o'clock, 5:30. I go, Bob, the lobster's cooked. Everybody's eating dinner. I'm buying everybody dinner because there's supposed to be a show to pay for the dinner and everything else. He goes, look, I'll come back. I'll come back. Can we do 2 shows? Let's make more money. How fast do we sell out? I said, really fast. He goes, well, fine, we'll book another show. I'm canceling Tucson tomorrow, which isn't your show, but I have to come back and play that one too. So I'll do 3 shows. It'll be worth my while to come back out. And that he did in June. And I was still depressed, even with that. And he goes, what's the problem now? I said, I'm out 30 grand right now. I have to pay people, and I can't take the money from the box office because the show hasn't happened. And he goes, fine. He calls his tour manager over. He goes, give me the checkbook. He writes me a check right there on the spot. And he goes, let's make this part of the show cost next time around, and we'll be all equal. And that's what we did. And I mean, and now remember, Bob in 1980 was not the superstar like he is today. He was just becoming known around the country and around the world. Prior to that, he was like a Midwest secret. And by this time, Night Moves was out. It was a really big deal. And it was a very class move. And to me, that was the bar set that I would look at whenever a situation like this occurred, as it does every now and then. Not often, but it happens. And he handled it better than anybody in the next 40 years, without question.
So, final question for Danny Zelisko. I love the discussion of riders. I learned a great deal. I got a kick out of the fact that Rodney Dangerfield, whose humor I loved as much as Sam Kinnison's, but Dangerfield wanted a refrigerator with milk and white bread because of his ulcers. You talked about Queen and the cheese tray. Tell me, though, about Prince and the special flowers.
It's kind of like a baptism thing, I think, for him. He needed these certain roses from Holland, and it was like 100 dozen of them or something. Like they had to be flown in from very far away, and they cost $10,000. Now, I know this sounds a little bit on the excessive side, pardon the pun, but it's his show, and when you're on the road 24/7, you have no roadmap, and suddenly people are throwing 10,000 seats worth of money at you every night. You might go off on a little tangent every now and then. In his case, it was flowers. He wanted to walk in that room and smell those flowers. It was very strong, and it was a very nice feature on his tour. I dropped into a couple of other dates, and sure enough, there were those roses. I never saw him in the room with them, but he claimed to go in there, and I understand the room stunk like that for at least a year afterwards. Beautiful thing. Beautiful.
Hey, congrats on the book. It's a lot of fun. The stories are priceless.
Thank you so much. I'm really glad to be talking about it with you. And I hope people will go to our website and check it out. And Amazon has posted so many great reviews. A lot of people are nice enough to write things about it. And, that's the best part of it. If nobody was reading it and I was getting thumbs down, I'd really be depressed. But
look, I've only scratched the surface. So anybody who loves going to shows is going to love the back of the house stories. The book is called All Excess Occupation Concert Promoter. Thank you, Danny. I really enjoyed this.
Me too. Thanks for having me.